people really deserve a life they really like. Like, it sounds so simple, but if, people just ask themselves, what are the things that you like in current life and what are the things that you really hate? Is it more like than hate? Where's your score in your life right now? But I think we deserve, 100% and 10 out of 10 likes in that life, and we should never stop pursuing it until we really find a balance. Not saying that you're trying to pursue something not realistic or materialistic, because it all depends on how your mind is shifting from one status to another. Because of that action in the pursuit of happiness, more happiness gets realized.
You're listening to another episode of Success with Purpose, where we hold conversations with the most holistically successful people we have the opportunity to connect with. We explore their journeys, their life-changing events, their perspectives, their mindset, and most importantly, their purpose. I'm Harry Goldberg, host, interviewer, and interrogator of this podcast. Father of the most incredible daughter in the world, husband of an incredible woman, and director and empowerment coach at Purpose Advisory. Hope you enjoy this episode, and don't forget to subscribe and like below. Now, let's begin. You immigrated to Australia when you were 14, 15. Yeah. You finished high school, you did Bachelors of Engineering, and then when you started working, you doubled down in a Masters of Engineering. You started out as a design engineer, became a structural engineer for a few years, changed companies to be a principal engineer, head of design and engineering at PC, and until finally becoming a director of the same company. Now, as a stark change from engineering, you founded It All Changes From Here, becoming a mentor on mindset and leadership for Chinese-speaking members, especially. Yeah. And I also know from a lot of our conversations that you're a proud family man. You love spending time with your wife and kids. You're finding great joy in mentoring a lot of people who ultimately have very few examples of leadership in their environment. Sure. And so it's great to have you here. And the first question I'll ask is, how do you define success?
Well, great question. Thanks for having me to start with, Harry. And it's always been a great journey, talking to in the past as well. You guys just being so inspirational. So about, a little bit about myself in terms of success. It's definitely wealth is part of it. But over time, I just learned, relationship health and the impact you can make combined with wealth. By the way, wealth to my definition is measured by time, not just by money. It's about, how much time you left in the day after you can survive with, the money that you earn. All those four elements added together, health, relationship, wealth, and impact defines my, definition of success. Is that something similar that's in your mind?
Well, it's this is something similar which other guests have definitely shared. But I love that you've broken it down into these four areas, right? Your health, your relationships, wealth, and impact. I mean, I'm curious what each of those mean for you. You've already said wealth is how much time you have left in the day, I guess, to kind of do the things that you want to do. Is that kind of that focus?
Kind of living to a purpose rather than living just for a kind of paycheck sort of life. So lots of us are stuck in the way of I go to work 8 hours and make money and spend it and just rinse and repeat again. So it's my goal for the long term is always trying to leverage my time to make more income so I can spend less time at work in the future and essentially spend more time with the family and friends and by just spending more time with people, you kind of naturally build up that relationship. Relationships all about proximity and time spending as well. And through that time spending, you naturally need to deal with the challenges in a relationship. And by dealing with the challenges in a relationship, we have our self-correct mechanism built within us as human. So the relationship will get better naturally. Well, it sounds very easy, but, sometimes relationship doesn't go as well. But I'm sure that if you have the persistence to pursue a good relationship with a purpose, meaning that you want to build a relationship with someone in particular, for example, your kids, your parents, and your spouse, and you will eventually get there. Like life will direct you in a way where you're just attracted to the purpose that you want to go for. So that's my definition for relationship. Yeah.
That's a cool, an interesting distinction, saying when you have enough time, then you can deal with the challenges in the relationship. Because most people will say the challenge in our relationship is we don't have enough time together. And you're saying time means that you got to deal with challenges.
Yeah. No, like not all of us are born with the skill and the environment to deal with relationship. Relationship is one of the most complicated, things that people face. I mean, people say that in a workplace, only 10 to 15% is how much you know about the work in terms of skill wise, technicalities wise. The rest is really people skill, relationship dealing skills. The way that you present yourself, leadership, and understanding what people are up to. All those skills will set people up for a much larger impact around you, and those impacts will add up over the years. It's almost like there's a lot of dots that's on a piece of paper. You just link every dots together. It becomes a map. Like this is something that Steve Jobs once shared in one of his speeches as well. Like life is about just drawing dots on the plan, and as you go and spend more time with those dots and accumulate, it eventually becomes a meaningful kind of a meaningful map for people to link knowledge together, and that becomes an insight. So I guess health is also part of that map now. To me, it becomes more and more important in the last few years. To be honest, I've myself in terms health-wise, knock to wood, I never had, big complication in terms of health. I had a couple of years of, I've growing, probably put on about 7 kilos of weight, but at the end, last year I spent a lot of time trying to put myself back in shape. I was at 72 kilos at some stage, and today I'm 61. Just being purposeful, trying to keep myself healthy. And so I think over the past few years, I've just taken health as granted, to be honest. So I think it's not too late to get back to on track on that, because I still have, hopefully 50 years to enjoy my life, and there's a lot to come. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So why the focus on health then? I know you said that you kind of took it for granted, and you got another 50 years, and you got to focus on it. But why is health one of the 4 parts of success?
Yeah. Look, health is actually the most important part for success, because if you do have a good energy as you wake up every day, you start to say the right thing to the people that you love, because you're in a good mood. And like when I talk about health, it's not just physical, it's mental health as well. When you're in a good mood, and because that your physical health is looked after as well, that gives you the right energy to say the right thing to the loved ones. And that kicks off your day with a good relationship, wake up saying, hey, good morning, love, and how was your sleep, and this and that, go and kiss your kids, and then go to work, right? It sets up a very good day. That's why I put at the front, like health is the most important to look after nowadays, especially when we start to, and I'm starting to getting to the age where all the diseases is potentially going to come in the next few years. Just be prepared for now. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you're talking about health. It's not just your physical, although your physical contribute to the mental, which is the more important part.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And then what about impact? Where does impact fit into this definition?
Yeah, I think impact will actually come naturally. I understand that some people will say that impact, anybody can make some impact. If you think you can't make an impact, try to spend your time with a mosquito at night, then you'll see how much impact a mosquito can make. But the impact that I really mean is that how many people's life can I change with my impact, with my knowledge. That's why I started the group. It all changes from here on LinkedIn. And look, it wasn't really initially designed for just Chinese community, was designed for everyone that's in the industry, and I'm attracted to lots of people who actually doing what I'm doing in terms of career. But overall, I think because being Asian and naturally just attract more and more Asian, then I thought, okay, let me just play with my strength and just go with that direction to see how it goes. Because if I put a business mind to it, for a business to be successful, although this is not a money making business, but as a business mind, there you need to find a niche. Like, you need to be very clear about your target audiences, who's, what's the avatar of whoever you want to transfer your message across. So over time, I find out, hey, let's just niche it down, help the people who's naturally attracted to what I want to share. And that fulfills my kind of, buzz and need to make an impact. And those people will actually pass my messages to their friends as well, and it becomes a community after all, and it feels good that way, because there's always things I can learn from people, and people can learn from my past mistakes, especially in the business and self-development kind of path. So I get a lot of joy, and I get a lot of satisfaction in that.
Yeah, cool. And I love how you shared that as well. It's not just about the community you've created. It's also just about the follow-on effects and the ripple effect from the people that you impact. I like that. So if we take a few steps or many years steps back, all right. So what about a bit of your journey? So where did you grow up, and when you made the move, what was all that like?
Look, my dad was actually here in 1989. So he was here as just like an overseas student, to Australia, study English, and then he started to work after that. So after 10 years, myself and my mom got a chance to, just come over with my dad to become, a permanent resident and then the citizen, in Australia, and I've been very grateful for that. At that time, when you say choices, it wasn't really a choice. I grew up in Shanghai, and being an Asian country, Shanghai is one of the biggest city in China. For those who's not familiar with China, it's on the eastern coast, and very, very busy. Like the high-rise buildings there, maybe with all of the high-rise buildings in Australia add up, you won't feel that city with the high-rise. So it's actually a very, very interesting city as well. So I do miss that, but unfortunately, when I was young, I actually didn't get a chance to explore that city a lot. So I really missed that. So after COVID, I really want to go back and explore more about that city. But growing over there, come to Australia, it's been difficult. I remember when I first arrived in Australia, and my dad introduced me to one of his friends who had a computer shop. And back then was like Windows 98 still, like people using Windows 98, and I just got a chance to work there for a couple of days. And there's a guy who I still remember his name. His name is Ronald, and Ron, he was being very kind. He asked me, hey, would you like a coffee? I didn't know what coffee was back then. I didn't know what that was. And I didn't know what to say. What is it? That's what I said to him. I still remember, because that back then, it was, my English wasn't good as well. I was still trying to get used to the accent in Australia too. Yeah, it was a fun time. But over the years, through the language school that I go to, things got better. And after that, I purposely put myself into a high school where there is no Asian, no Chinese, just to kind of force myself to learn a bit of English. And that actually helped a lot, but don't get me wrong, like I had a lot of trouble understanding people back then. I still did. I got laughed at, I got bullied at because of my English, because of my accent. But it forced me to kind of learn a bit further. And because of the environment, now we'll talk about environment a bit later. I think environment really shapes a person. For example, and now I remember when I when I was in China, I was good at maths, and because everybody was good at maths on average, right? I still remember in high school here when I was in year 9 or year 10, I was doing an exam and I put my headphone on, put the music on. Back then it was CD, by the way, guys, and yeah, I scored 100%. And 98%, 99% every single time, because maths was just so easy in Australia compared to overseas, right? But back onto the environment things, I think if I didn't choose to go to a high school where it's all English speakers, I wouldn't have been able to learn English that quickly, because of the environment kind of force you pushing to say, okay, you have to say something. Right? You just got that environmental pressure. I think to some degree that's a very good thing. Yeah. So funny enough, although I've been trying to study English so hard, but my HSC in English, I didn't really do exceptionally well. I think I scored like something like 60, 68, 67 or something, not something substantial. But that didn't actually matter in my future lich, to be honest. It didn't actually matter. It's like I went to uni, went to a senior uni, studied structural engineering, for 4 years, and yeah, that was I'm not sure if I'm sharing too much and time wise, and do I go to details that much? Or
this is great.
Yeah, as fun as possible. Great. Look, to be honest, I didn't study too well in uni either. In the second year of uni, I actually failed 3 or 4 subjects. I just didn't go to uni, right? Because I'll tell you why. Is because throughout a Asian family culture, you actually got forced into studying a lot, to the degree that you actually hate studying. So went to uni actually was my ticket to freedom. The day I went to uni, I thought, oh, great, my mom and dad not on my back trying to get me to read books anymore. I just got that freedom. So I really took the opportunity, for granted to some degree, where I didn't go to much classes. So I failed a lot of subjects there. But I managed to catch it back in year 3, year 4. It was such a busy year 3, year 4 for me. Like each semester I was taking 6 or 7 subjects. And remember on year 4, there's theaters as well. So I did manage to get it back and graduate on time. And I don't know how I did it, but it was, again, it's just stress and pressure. You just have to do it kind of thing, which is great. And guys, like it doesn't really matter, again, because I found a job anyway. Doesn't matter how many subjects I failed, I still managed to find a job I want in a big company. And back then the company was called Conor Wagner, now renamed to Oricon. And Conor Wagner had 2,000 something employees over the globe, and Oricon now has like 6,000 or something, and internationally. I went to a small division of engineering, and I was designing all the mobile towers. I can proudly say, like, back then was a rollout of 3G technology, like for Optus and Telstra. I did most of the tower designs in New South Wales back then.
Great. That
was in 2007. It was a fun journey. We drive out to rural areas, trying to find a place, a high place to put a tower on, so people can receive signals from the antennas. It was a great fun, and but that was too easy for me. So I requested my manager to get me out of there, and get transferred to high-rise building division of the company, which I did. And funny enough, the first day I sat down with the new manager. The new manager asked me, "What do you want to do? What's your goal in the next 5 years?" Those typical interview questions. Where do you see yourself in 5 years, right?
Yeah.
I told them, in 5 years I want to be an engineer manager, right? And I still remember he said, "Whoa, don't be too ambitious." That's very quick. But guess what? In 5 years, I quit, and I became an engineering manager elsewhere. So it's like, once you have a dream, I feel you just need to have a strong dream and pursue it. It doesn't matter what other people tell you to do. And you'll get there. And, throughout my growth journey, there's a lot of people, told me all those negativity things. One of my previous, colleague or manager, I was putting a Lamborghini on my, screensavers and back, at the background of the computer. It's just so funny. Like people someone just walked to me and said, you will never be able to afford that. I didn't say much back then, but I can proudly say I can afford it now, but I don't want it now. So for some reason,
Yeah.
I think it's probably just a waste of money at this stage of my life to get that kind of car. But my point is that, I won't let anyone, talk little on me or belittle me on any cases. And throughout the journey, I really learned from that, from an immigrant point of view. Like there's people, from all sorts of angles trying to, not trying to raise you up, but trying to just put you down. But, that's why I think, sometimes the mental health thing kind of kicks in, and just train our brain to be strong and to be authentic and just to be yourself, and don't be afraid to pursue your dream. Really, no one can really stop you. If you think you're in fear that someone's stopping you, all those fears are actually not real. There's the potential damages, then they may not be real damages. At the end of the day, the sun rises, still raises up in the next day, but not really tomorrow because this weather. But but in general, the sun still goes on. You still see the moon every day. There's nothing really you need to worry about. So after I kind of moved on to the new journey. It was a startup company. Didn't have much job at the beginning, but I was kind of brave enough to take that job. And back then, I had my son that was 2 years old. Back then, it was a lot of risk trying to get myself out of that kind of stable position. Back then I was already kind of I was already on a six figure income in terms of salary. It was a very, very big decision to make a move, but I got support from my wife saying that, hey, just go there, and then what she said was just go there and make a difference. Make a difference. Yeah.
Did you have any management experience before that?
Zero.
Zero. Cool. So zero management experience. Then you moved across to be a manager engineer or an engineer manager. And how many staff did you have under you?
I actually started the whole division. So I actually just started myself and another a lady who just came to Australia as well. So things just happens for some purpose, right? Like she just arrived in Australia not long ago, and she was from the same city, and she got to know me from some kind of engineering, Chinese engineering group, and she was looking for a job. I said, let's meet up, let's meet up and see what we can do together. So then we just started, just herself and myself. And then we start just gradually build a team, to 5, 10, 20 to 40, at some stage 60 to 70 people. Then the whole thing just crashed. I don't know. I don't think you knew this part of the story, Harry.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. Now I understand why I crashed, but back then I couldn't have known because I literally didn't have, as I said, I didn't have any management experience at all.
Well, you gradually built up to 60 or 70 people, so you were building up management experience throughout that, right?
Randomly, which is far from enough, especially when you're talking to a nerdy person. I'm okay talking now, but back then was much more nerdy than who I am right now, right? So I had some big identity shift over the last 7 years myself, and so back then, you're right. Like by hiring more people, you would think that you naturally develop more management leadership skill, but in fact, you're just really learning things randomly, learning things very reactively. It's almost like I'm doing one-on-one coaching with my tennis coach at the moment, right? But before that, I was doing a random tennis matches with people for 3 years. And I was really, really terrible in that. Okay. and the first 3 months with my coach, and he was spending his time just fixing my previous bad habits of, my swing of rackets. And the next, 5 months was the actual learning of what are the right thing to do. And I improved very, very quickly in that 5 months. Don't get me wrong. But that was all because of, a purpose for learning and knowing what you learn is actually correct. So throughout my management journey, I tried to do the MBA course. I did the graduate cert. I didn't finish the MBA course, but I started myself to do that. And then I got myself a business mentor, business coach, and he really saved my life as well back then, because the company was growing big, but not growing well in terms of profitability and the risk control and stuff, especially leadership, because when there's way too many people and there's no time to grow the leadership, and everything will just start to fall apart. So that was the couple of years time where the company was really doing not well. I'm talking about in the negative millions of dollars of loss of revenue on a yearly basis. But luckily, my business coach actually helped me to save myself, save the company, got me into the right reps in terms of what to do to build up my management and leadership skill. And within 12 months, everything went back to better than before. And then we start to make a lot of income, a lot of money, to the point now that I'm actually reducing more staff these years, and but still maintain the same profitability as the years before. So that's a good thing good thing to see, I think. And over the years, you just learn a lot about. I was the dark side of the business, which is people's betrayal. People you build up with a relationship and you train them up, and people still leave. People come. It all happens. Throughout this journey, I talked to a lot of experienced business people. I found out they basically experience the same thing. Right.
Well,
there's another friend.
What happened? What happened for you when you built it up to 60 or 70 people, and then you said it all crashed? What actually happened? Like, what was the crash?
The crash is not understanding a lot of things in the background. For example, the accounting part of things, and also hiring the right people, and also how to manage people who's older than me, which is always a challenge. Yeah, and putting a system together for the business. So everything is just not working. When everything is just not working, you're just paying money on things that not necessarily being productive and profitable. Then you just start to lose money. And when you lose money, you have to borrow money. Then there's a lot of stress and a lot of tears and sleepless nights and lots of arguments, internally and externally. And obviously, when you're not happy at work, you won't be happy at home. So everything kind of downward spiraled a little bit before it can get picked up, later on.
Yeah, okay. I mean, throughout that whole time, how did you manage your role as a father versus this role of trying to make sure that the business is doing really well? Because it must have felt great. You're like, yeah, my team's growing. We've now got 60 staff. We've now got 70 staff, and it's amazing. And look at how much we're growing. It must be great. But I'm sure that there were a lot of hours which were being put into the office, and that would have been at the expense of home, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. And put it simply, the father role was not designed at during that period. Yeah, so there's very little time other than the weekends. One thing I really kind of I have been proud of myself is I don't spend too much time over the weekends on work. It doesn't matter how busy I am. Even during this period, I still manage not to get myself onto the business during the weekend. Just focus on family a little bit. But during the weekdays, there's lots of late nights. 8, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, sometimes 12. I rarely have dinner with families. I still kind of don't have too many dinner nights still nowadays, but I can see that things are slightly getting better and better now. So when the team got shrink down, things, funny enough, getting easier. You would have thought that more people can produce more stuff, but actually not really. It's sometimes a elite team can produce much more than a team who's not really experienced. I'm not sure if you have seen a kind of a video on YouTube or something that's 100 students playing a soccer ball. There's only a couple of professional players kicking the ball, and the professional players still won. That kind of feeling.
No, I can imagine it. I can imagine it like saying you give some inexperienced builders 10 hammers versus giving them 100 hammers. Just because they got 100 hammers doesn't mean they're going to do any better. They're still going to get you the exact same results. The extra hammers isn't going to solve it, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, and so you got there, you're 60, 70, and you shrunk back down to what was your team size then?
Then that was 40. Then we're down to about 25, 30-ish now. Yeah.
Okay. And so my gut question, which I've got to ask you, is why reduce staff and maintain the same profits rather than increase staff and increase profits, or maintain the same staff and increase profits?
It's something I learned from my business coach as well. It's there's a couple of components. First of all, I got to understand business growth is not. First of all, it's not a linear curve of growth. And second of all, it's definitely not a parabola that people see just from the internet graphs. The parabola that you see is actually a very, very zoomed out version of a big unicorn company. Okay. But if you zoom into the micro years or months, the business growth is actually, a growth. They need to plateau a bit to recoup, set up the system, set up people, and increase the capacity rather than increase people's skill capacity while trying to maintain the same revenue. Then go to the next growth, because once your people have more capacity to deal with the work, they have more time to train the next level of staff. And if that training is not happening, the more team that you have, the more people that you have, the less trouble you're actually trying to deal with every single day. It's like before you have a one mistake you want to fix, then 10 people, you got 10 mistakes you're gonna fix. So you have to have that core team as seed, where you can really copy the model and duplicate. So one of the fundamental changes that we kind of changed a kind of a group team structure to a small team structure, 3-4 people a team kind of structure that enables them to huddle a bit more frequently, and also to contain a successful model. So first of all, the damage, if the team is not doing well, the damage is controlling that team. And second of all, if the team is doing well, then we can easily copy the team model, or adding one team member at a time to kind of use the culture environment to incubate a trainee per se. So with that kind of growth, it's more automatic, but still it's got that trouble too, because getting and hiring the right people, it really just takes time and patience. It's nothing that you can really you can really just by putting more money there, then you will get good people. It doesn't work like that, really. Yeah.
And so then you mentioned, like, you're talking about building people up and training people so they have a certain level of skill, and you invest in them. And it sounded like it's been quite hurtful in the past when you've seen people kind of still leave after you built them up and train them up. And then they've still left, they've moved on, they've taken it all for themselves and moved to something else. What's that like? What's that journey been like? What have you seen, and how are you managing it better now?
Very good question. That's the really dark side of being a boss or manager as a company. I get lot of disappointments. Yeah, lots of disappointments over the years. People always leave, and they always have their reason. Sometimes they can even blame you for that reason, not really being appreciative of what they have learned at the workplace. It's that part of the thing really discouraged me to train more people, to be honest. Yeah, every time when there's a trained staff trying to leave the company, I said to myself, why I spend so much time and energy and my heart on trying to build your skill, and at the end of the day, just for some random reason that you need to leave. I said to myself, why do I even care anymore? But I don't let that small talk to stop me. I think, I said to myself, just because someone else leaves doesn't mean that you need to stop being who you are, right? I am a trainer. I love to share, and I love to see people grow, and no one can change me in that regards. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, and the right people will turn up.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And so you face this massive challenge, and then you've still been like just reducing your staff and maintaining the profitability, and I'm guessing then eventually speed it back up and increase it and build it from there afterwards.
Yep.
So how long did it take until that really big challenge presented itself? How many years?
Even the big challenge of the downfall,
realizing that it was all just going to crash, I think were your terms.
About 12 months. Yeah, because within the 12 months, the things just happens too quickly. Because there's a growth, you just keep hiring people, and at the same time you're trying to deal with sales to feed more, people. Obviously, you have more people to feed, right? And at the same time, there is more business kind of different business services you're trying to fulfill. So you spread yourself out quite thin. There's a loss of focus there. You're trying to maintain your current client, then try to build a new services, train new people, a new service stream. Myself just don't have that enough time to actually deal with it. And at that time, that's the second tier of core members. They were not ready to take some kind of secondary leadership role, and it means that no one's really leading, right? So if no one's really leading, guess what? That's the pack cannot sustain itself. Yeah.
No, and you've only got so many hours in the day, right?
Exactly. So that was like over the 12 months, and then I see the real picture. Back then I was losing a lot of money, but I still managed to pay my business consultant to help me to get it out. Like you can feel the feeling when you don't have much money and you still have to pay a big chunk of money trying to fix the money problem. I mean, psychologically, when I think about it right now, it's actually quite difficult. Yeah, it's actually quite difficult. Yeah, but I don't know how I managed.
You're saying it's quite difficult to invest money in yourself and in growth when you feel like everything's just chaotic and everything's going down. Yeah.
When you're at debt, you're trying to borrow money to invest, hoping to grow. That's still a lot of risk in that. Yeah. To some degree, I think I'm just a huge risk taker, maybe. Yeah. Who knows? Yeah.
I don't believe you when you say you're a huge risk taker. Like my sense with you is that everything's quite calculated, and maybe you just had a lot of faith in yourself, perhaps.
Could be. Back then, I didn't think too much, to be honest. Now you think, I have my faith. Yeah, you can call that faith, or maybe, I don't know, arrogance, stubbornness. Yeah, but somehow I work it out. Yeah.
Well, what was driving you then? Was it still that Lamborghini on your desktop, or was it something else?
No, it's just a fear of failure that's driving me. Yeah. I told myself, no matter what, I just need to make it work. Yeah, failure wasn't an option. Yeah,
Yeah.
and obviously the family at the background, they're being very successful. My wife's been very successful in that, and as always, being very patient as well. Give me time to cure, to recover, and support with kids as well. That also helped tremendously, I will say. Yeah, but most importantly, got lucky on my business mentor and building more faith throughout the coaching and training, and eventually, you can walk off with some kind of purpose. Because if I don't see how it can make it work, it would be hard for me to believe in walking that journey. So kind of a give or take, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you just kind of like you started something and you want to be successful. You just didn't want to fail at it. And you just, that was primarily what drove you. Yeah, you've got your family you got mouths to feed, you got mortgage to pay, you've got all of this. But it sounds like the real driver for you was just, you've started on this path. You took a risk to leave a cushy 6-figure salary when your son was 2 years old, and you've been building up the business and it's been growing. Look at how much it's growing. Look at the revenue and look at the staff and the people count. And you just didn't want it to completely fail, right? And so that's kind of like where this energy and where this power came from, right?
I think so. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
What have been some of the other challenges in your career so far?
In my career? Don't know. Good question. Yeah, not like that challenge was quite substantial. That makes a lot of other challenges just doesn't count anymore.
Seems like those challenges don't count.
Yeah. Not much actually. Yeah, if you're talking about challenges on learning new skills, there might be a few. Yeah, like sales skills, talking to client, negotiation. All of those things are quite. It wasn't. Put it this way: it wasn't in a engineer's blood to do all those things.
No, was that one of the biggest shifts that you needed to make?
Yeah, that was. Yeah, because I'm more like melancholy, very, kind of focus on logical side of things. But I have to, over the years, I had to force myself to be more kind of go on to the feeling type of person, and I want to naturally to feel more rather than think logically about what that is. Whereas before I was like, okay, X, Y, Z, I need to achieve that. Okay, this is the formula. Go for it. This is how you exactly gonna do it. But now I'm more towards, hey, you don't need to be black or white. Gray is okay. And see how you go with the flow with the gray, and see where it leads you. It's actually not the end of the world to get down to the bottom of things. Sometimes things will work out, and that links to a lot of that actually is related to vulnerability. So I first encountered vulnerability from the book Vulnerability from Brené Brown, and that was to me, it was a life-changing book where I didn't know that was actually so powerful. So when you appear to people that you need more help, actually people will actually help you quite a lot. Yeah. So it's when you present yourself to be too strong, that is when everybody else backs off, because they're scared that they may hurt your feeling if they think that they think that you need their help a lot. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to be too strong to people, otherwise people will just back off, and you just left off with yourself, which is not a great thing to be.
Yeah, especially not if part of your definition of success is the relationships and impact in your life.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, for some people, they just want to kind of be that macho, strong, kind of push it all the way through, and just they don't need anybody. And maybe that fits their definition of success. But I doubt that it's a very holistic definition of success, at least.
I agree.
Okay. Now, out of out of curiosity, if I was someone who was listening to this podcast, and I've always been a little bit nerdy, a little bit shy, a little bit timid, highly analytical, and I hear you say, whoa, Will was exactly like that as well. And Will just said that he had to learn how to kind of be more in touch with emotions and communicate better and not be so shy. What are some of the key ways that you've really learned to do that?
Oh, very, very good question. Very good. I know exactly what to do in my case. It may help a lot of people. First of all, we all need to start somewhere. It gets back to if people want to change the behavior, which will affect the outcome, because people will want to change on something, for example, their personalities, because their current outcome is not so much what they want exactly. That's why people feel like they want to change. The change on the surface is your behavior, the way that, like what you do actually defines what you get to some degree. But in fact, it's the, identity behind that behavior that people really wants to fix. For example, if people wants to lose weight and they simply eat less or do more exercise in the next 90 days, but if in their mind they're always being a person who loves junk food, after 90 days, it's very likely they'll get back to it until they really fix in their mind saying that, no, I never enjoyed junk food and I will never enjoy it later. Then the real change will actually happen. So personality and it's kind of very, very similar. It's, first of all, I would say we don't have to lose our current personality to have to fully change to another kind of person. We don't have to do that. Personality to me is you can actually add layers onto it. That's my personal feeling. I'm not sure about everyone, right? So I have my shy side. I'm a natural introvert, by the way. So I have my shy side, but in a network situation, I can be very talkative. I can be more a sanguine kind of personality. Very talkative, get to the people, looking to people as I try to feel the vibe inside a network situation. But you can actually have two personalities. It's actually very beneficial. You have multiple layers of things that people can dig into. So definitely don't be scared to embrace a new type of personality, because you don't have to lose your current one. All you need to do is just add a new one. It's almost like reading more books and getting more knowledge onto it. So until to the point where at some point in time, if you want to change your own belief system identity, you need to get a different influence. That's when the environment kicks in. And at the beginning, as we said, the reason why I was good at math was because the environment. The reason why, my English got improved, significantly was because of the high school I went to, right? And the whole Australian environment that forced me to do that. So for you to change to some kind of different person with different personality traits, you need to have a different influence, and that influence can come from reading books or associate yourself with people who you see that you like that person. That person is lovely. He's very talkative. He's not shy. He's very presentable. I want to be a friend with him. Try to learn how to build a friendship, a relationship with people like that. And those people usually get attracted to similar people as well. Then over time, you just went to the environment, suddenly everybody is like that, then you kind of get, influence to become a person like that. Yeah. And with the help of, if people's got mentors or, coaches, it could be, they could accelerate that process as well. And at the same time, you have the books, personal development books, that can also help you. For example, the book I mentioned, which was Vulnerability. And also there's another book really taught me well, was the Charisma Myth. Yeah, okay. That one. Yeah, that one, I can't remember the author, unfortunately. But that book literally saying, there's, different ways that you can present warmth in a network situation, even though you are an introvert. So I really start to learn the behavior, and try to, kind of act on those behaviors. Put it simply, fake it as, until you make it. But in the way, with the purpose of, I would love to have that layer of personality trait, and this is a behavior that will enable me to kind of get into that kind of result. I'll keep doing the behavior, keep doing those acts until I really believe I'm that person. It's the same as doing exercises. If you're not a muscly person, you need to start doing the reps of other people who's got muscle already, doing those reps, right? Until one day you got those muscles on you, and you still keep doing it. And by that time, you're telling yourself, oh, look, it's easy for me to do it, and I can do 100 of push-ups or whatever, and that becomes you. And that's the way of transformation that I think really worked very well on me.
Yeah, I hear what you're sharing there. And when you're saying, because there's a lot of different terminology out there about personality, right? Some people say you can never change your personality, but you got your personality plus your beliefs, and your personality plus your beliefs determines your behavior. So if you have a particular personality, then you can add on, like you can adjust your beliefs really easily. And adjusting your beliefs, like what you were talking about, right? Like changing your belief of the fact that you want to, like you want to be committed to a healthy lifestyle, as opposed to the belief of, I need to lose weight, because no one wants to lose anything, right?
Yeah.
And so what it sounds like you're sharing is that whether it's personality or beliefs or whatever, you're ultimately changing your behaviors by adopting a completely new mindset. And adopting a mindset, for example, when you want to be more extroverted and more gregarious, to say, I just want to, I'm the type of person in these circumstances where I really want to connect with other people. And I really want to be able to be the type of person that can tell the story and everyone's listening to, and can laugh and smile and make other people feel good. And right. And so you've changed your identity to be a person who really wants to be able to do that in those circumstances, right?
Precisely, yeah.
And which came first for you? Was it the belief that you have the ability to do it, or the determination to find a way to do it?
I think the dream always comes first. Yeah, the desire and the dream, it comes first. And the desire and the dream, I feel like we need some kind of desire in terms of what you want to become, or who you want to become, and what kind of life that you want to live in the future. And also what kind of life that you want to bring your family to. I think family, in my case, really played a great role in directing me of where I want to go. I really feel very strongly in that, and because my family needs this kind of lifestyle, and that kind of forced me into changing, my career, changing my behavior, changing my personality, changing my identity, changing the whole system. Because when I think about myself probably 10 years ago, I never would think that I could be kind of at a leadership role, to be honest. Like 10, 15 years ago, no way. Yeah, because I was so introverted, and I'm someone who's staying at home playing computer games, and I can play all day. I don't have to go out. I don't have to talk to anyone. Yeah, I really enjoy just staying by myself and play heaps of games, and that was me.
So why did you want to become an engineering manager then?
Yeah, and that was after then the real life situation actually kicks in, where you have to provide what your families need, right? And when you look at it, becoming an engineer for your whole life, those income, when we talk about paycheck, lifestyle, it's just never possible. Then one thing leads to another. If paycheck's not possible, then you have to become a certain, you have to have a certain position in terms of the things that you're doing. I'm talking about being a manager, being a leader, being a boss, being a business owner, and only going to that path that will enable you to earn a better income. And because that better income gives you the perceived lifestyle you thought you were gonna get at the end. You didn't really get that, by the way. But I'm only getting close to that, in the recent years. But my point is that because of that desire, the family-orientated desire, then I'm happy to change or sacrifice myself in a way to fulfill that. Yeah.
And that's what you mean by the dream comes first.
Yeah, the dream comes first. Yeah.
Okay. And so you mentioned quite a bit about how you look up to different people for advice and mentorship and inspiration. And so you mentioned the business coach you had. You mentioned reading a whole bunch of personal development books, as well as just connecting with anyone who has the results of the behaviors that you want to get, right? Who else do you look up to for advice? Who are some of the key people that you either in a close connection with and close relationship with, or even from afar are watching and kind of learning from?
Yeah, there's many people. I think, first of all, I'm still in touch with my previous business consultant mentor. His name is Peter. And I won't mention his name because he didn't know that I'm mentioning his name right now. So Peter, I actually caught up with him last week as well, because I'm doing some restructuring in the company as well. He will still be one of the first guys I will seek my advice to in terms of business wise, and in terms of the future life of being an engineer businessman. And then there's another gentleman and couple called Dean, a gentleman called Dean, and he's giving me lots of guidance in terms of changing my personality, which I was talking about, from a logical, rational based mind to emotional, feeling based mind. So he gave me lots of tips on that, and my wife got influence on that as well. And the relationship internally in the family got better, and with our kids also gets better as well. So Dean really gave me another level of improvement in terms of growing ourselves. So those are the two people I will actively go into and go to for advice. But unfortunately, my parents, I love them very, very much, but in regards to personal growth, business, making money, making impact, they are just not the right person to go for this kind of advice. So that's my personal situation, and it doesn't mean that I don't respect them, doesn't mean that I don't love them. It's just to achieve a certain level of life success, you just have to learn from people who's already got that kind of success already, right? So that would be the easiest way. For example, I learned tennis from my tennis coach. Obviously he knows what he's doing. That's why he can teach me. He learns the way that his coach taught him, and it all then just makes sense. But something's missing in our average people in the current society, especially in development country and in the developing country. It's the same. Like, only a very small percentage people, they have a coach constantly trying to influence their life to better them for many reasons. First of all, our upbringings never involved a coach. My parents never had a coach. My grandparents never had a coach. And throughout my growth, I had my teacher at school who always asked me to study and read mathematical books. But it's never, the school system never teach you how to manage money, manage relationship, and how they kind of give you some activities to do that. But that was never being very purposeful. So that kind of environment has never been in our life system. Until 30 years down the track, when we're in the middle age, suddenly we find out, why is there so many roadblocks in my life? Right? Why is that? And that was because you never study how to go around it, right? So that's when the light bulb just suddenly light up to me, saying that, hey, to go around this, the things that you never faced before, just simply go and ask someone who has already faced it and go around it and just learn it, all right? And with the right person as a guidance who really do some heavy surgery on my mind. At the same time, I got my books acting as the medicine just to maintain that recovery pace. You're trying to head to a more balanced situation where you have, I start to develop multiple facets of personalities, not in a disorder kind of manner, but you really feel that you can feel different people's personality, whereas before I could only connect to a certain percentage of the population where they're nerdy, they understand formulas, they're very logical, whereas before when I met someone who's not logical, he just based on emotions or based on their feelings of when they communicate doing things, I don't connect with them. I actually hate them. I don't want to make friends with them, and that actually distance you from making such change, because if you're not just respecting or liking people like that, then you will be naturally be attracted to the other type of people who's more nerdy, engineering, formulas, blah, blah, blah. And that will actually reinforce your, kind of your previous personality. And I don't think that's a good rabbit hole you want to go down to, I'm grateful that, throughout my luck, I got to meet those very kind people who lead me the way of growing my personality and growing my life.
Yeah, I hear you sharing that as well. There's an interesting term which you mentioned, which was recovery, and you mentioned it a few times now. And it sounds like personal development and recovery go hand in hand for you. Mm-hmm. What are you recovering from? Or what do you mean when you say recovery?
Recovering is, I don't know why I mentioned, to be honest, but I feel that I was not brought up in the way that I can manage my social survivability among people. Yeah, I was social skill-wise, I was really, really impaired. I still believe I am. I don't think I've changed my identity on that. But if I think about it, there definitely has been improvement. Yeah, but that part, I think I refer to that part as the recovery journey. I define it as recovery because I think I deserve to have that skill, but I never did.
Okay, so it's like recovery from... like if you grow up and you're always eating junk food because that's just what you're always given, right? You never taught a healthy way of living, and then you're just addicted to this junk food. You feel like you're addicted to, and you're still kind of addicted to this kind of introverted, have no social skills, kind of version of yourself, which you were brought up with, and nothing different was ever cultivated.
Exactly, because I was never educated otherwise. There's no new environment trying to steer me in the right way. Yeah,
okay. And that explains some of these frameworks around personal growth that you've already been sharing as well, right? Like you mentioned changing your identity, or as you said, layering on personalities to yourself, or connecting with the right people, or your definition of success with those 4 different areas as well. Just because it's really cool to use the word recovery, because you're recovering from the parts of you which aren't whole yet, and recovering from almost what was either already broken when you were born and that you need to fix up, or that was never kind of cultivated in the right way when you were young. And so you were just able to lean too heavily on your strong suits and become amazing at math and never really have the social skills, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think people all deserve, a very great life per se. And I know that's a general term, but what I mean is that people really deserve a life they really like. Like, it sounds so simple, but if, people just ask themselves, what are the things that you like, in your current life, and what are the things that you really hate? Is it more like than hate? Where's your score in your life right now? But I think we deserve 100% and 10 out of 10 likes in that life, and we should never stop pursuing it until we really find a balance. I'm not saying that you you're trying to pursue something not realistic or materialistic, because it all depends on how your mind is shifting from one status to another. What I mean by that is, for example, back then, probably 10 years ago, I know I was really into Lamborghini, and if I get a Lamborghini, I can afford it, then I'll be happy.
Yes.
Okay. But now I'm also happy without a Lamborghini, because my understanding what happiness actually shifted. All right. But if I didn't have that desire, it probably wouldn't have driven me into the current status of happiness anyway. Right? Because of that action in the pursuit of happiness, more happiness gets realized over the years.
Yeah, well, I mean, we ultimately get what we keep chasing after, consciously or unconsciously, right? So if we keep chasing after what we think happiness is, and we keep chasing after the same thing, and we think that it's having a nice Lamborghini or a fancy house or a yacht or whatever it is, and we think that that's happiness, and we keep pursuing that because we're convincing ourselves that that's what happiness is, then sure, maybe we'll eventually get it. It doesn't mean that we'll ever get our happiness if that's what we continue pursuing. But that's what we're pursuing, and we believe we're capable of getting it. Sure, you might get there. You might get all the status that you want and the nice house and fancy car, and then also be on your third marriage and your kids never speak to you.
Yeah, yeah.
Which maybe you're still convincing yourself, oh, no, it's because my mansion isn't big enough and my car isn't nice enough. I've only got 2 fancy cars. I need a third.
I need 10.
what about that yacht? I need the yacht for my waterfront mansion. Then I'll be happy when I get that.
Exactly.
And so we'll keep getting what we chase after, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, we can keep getting what we chase after, or we can simply go on to a personal development journey, purposefully, and then sometimes little things can make people happy and satisfying. And look, everybody's balance of or understanding of happiness is really, really different at different ages of their life anyway. So I'm not going to judge whoever's happy about what. It's but at the end of the day, you need to be true to yourself. What you're happy or not happy with. That's what I learned. Whereas before, I'll probably just being, I was kind of kidnapped from the society where my happiness is actually from how other people see how happy I should be.
Yes.
Like materialistic things. That's what other people. That's what will make other people think I am happy. I was kind of in the rabbit hole of that, and through personal development, I got out of that. Got out of that, and really understand it's all about just don't lie to yourself. That's what it is.
So, what kickstarted the personal development journey then?
I can't recall exactly when. It just over time became a need. I think I told you, after uni, I never wanted to read any books or study anything. No, not after high school. Sorry, after high school, I never really wanted to study anything new, because of the the management position that I have. Being a director of a company, that you kind of have to, you just have to develop yourself. So I started reading again with my own interests. No one's really forcing me. Was really difficult for me to get into, because I just hate reading. Back then, my identity is that I'm not a reader. I'm not even good at English. Why am I reading the book for? I'm not even good at Chinese, because I left China when I was 14, 15, right? So I'm not really good at either languages as an expert. So yeah, it was really suffering. But over the time, we just build that habit and just build up reading. Initially started with audiobook, and then getting to physical book, and now you just read half an hour, sometimes 2 hours every single day, and it becomes you. And now I identify myself as a reader. So I'm very proud of myself that I'm a reader, and that really changed my belief system and changed my behavior. My behavior is the habit, and over the time, personal development just naturally happens in the background, and as well as my mentor Dean is mentoring me on which direction you should take, give me some kind of idea to bounce off. That helped a lot too. Yeah.
Okay. I like that. And then what about this more recent part of the journey, it all changes from here? You mentioned you started out just kind of just seeing who you can connect with on LinkedIn, and it kind of became this niche towards Chinese speaking individuals who kind of want to grow and break out of the mold of their culture. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So the thought, I didn't think too much. All I was thinking, I started about almost 24 months ago. Didn't think too much. All I was thinking is that I feel that there's a lot of things I can share with people who've seen this, kind of the same journey. And all I did was I posted a LinkedIn post. I don't post too often, right? But when I posted, there's a lot of people replied trying to join in, and had my first webinar with like 30 people, and it goes on, and you were on one of them, and I was still really grateful for that. That was one of the most successful webinar, in those 14 webinars I hold. But over
that was Spiral Dynamics.
Yeah,
wasn't
Spiral
it?
Dynamics. Yeah, it was really amazing.
Yeah, that was a fun conversation.
Yeah, it was. And back then, and I was connecting with a lot of good people and people who wants to just do better in their life. I still got like the group now is not the English speaking group now is not so active at the moment at all, because I stopped doing webinars because of my other focuses in my life. But I did still make a number of good friends who's in touch with me on a daily basis now, which is great. My dream never stopped with the idea. I think that was a good test project for me. Through that, I learned how to, for example, run a webinar, how to use Zoom properly, how to really keep a group going in terms of a voluntary group base. To keep a group active, it's actually a very hard job. You probably know that better than me. It's no matter how active.
We had to hire 2 full-time staff just to do it.
Yeah. You have to keep building contents, and you have to keep posting good stuff for people to be engaged, ask the right questions. When even at the time when people are not responding to things, you still have to keep kind of keep pushing, trying to build your own personal relationship one-on-one as well, because people are busy. Most people who attended the group they're just curious at start with, and then the shiny object syndrome kicks in on other groups, and the people just lost traction on what they really need, because there's just literally so many groups nowadays on on all platforms, let alone Facebook or WhatsApp, WeChat, and all sorts of groups that you can attend to. On average, I'm not sure, like people may have 10 or 20 groups they're involved in, so they don't know where to spend their time to. And if if people's life are really, really organized, they probably would know what they're doing anyway. So I feel like a lot of people are looking for help, but they just need a little bit more courage to find who do they really want to connect with long term. Yeah, and it's not about the quantity of how many people is really the quality, knowing the right person that you want to build a relationship to, and to do that, you kind of need to have a level of relationship building skill. People don't spend time with you or on you if you're not you're not a humble person, your attitude's no good, or you're not appreciative. No one wants to connect with people like that. So when you spend when I spend time with my mentor, I always been very thankful, appreciative, on time, dress well. Those are the things I put myself out there to make sure that they understand I really, really appreciate the relationship and time. Okay. Funny enough, I don't see many people that I have met have that understanding. Yeah. So, and naturally the relationship won't actually progress much further because there's no sincereness in terms of from the student. There's a saying that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. It's I think the first skill, if I were to share my story with everyone, is that you actually need to learn how to be a good student. Then people will naturally feel that you are a person they want to spend their time with. Funny enough, I feel that people has a natural desire to teach. A lot of people have a natural desire to share, natural desire to teach fundamentally at the back of their mind. It's about who they spend time with. That is the key. Other than their work, their spouse and their family, who do they spend their time with, right? But the person who will eventually spend more time with the mentor is people who make the mentor understand that time is valuably spent.
Yes.
That's when the real magic actually kicks, because that's an upward spiral where, the mentor wants to spend more time with you. They will start to give you more meaningful and specific advice in your situation for you to grow. And as you grow, you appreciate more of those advices, and the relationship just goes on and on and on. And suddenly you find out you get to connect it with, your mentor's circle of friends, and that has another level of impact to your life. And suddenly just life gets just changed. Somehow, some way, the environment again gets changed your identity. So next time when you go out with someone, and instead of saying that, oh, I'm just friends with this bunch of losers, now you can be proud saying that I'm with a bunch of, people who's energetic, wealthy, good relationship with family, and they know what they're doing in their life. I'm associated with these guys. You become proud of who you associate with, and suddenly you convince yourself at the back of your mind that you are that person too. Then your behavior will change. Then the outcome will change.
Yeah. I mean, there are a few things that you shared there, which were really great. Like the one part, everyone wants to teach, everyone wants to share. Like I guess the evidence of that is that for almost everybody, maybe there are some people with some various challenges. But for most people, when they have a really awesome experience, like a great conversation, or they do really well at a sport which they're playing, or they just do something really well, they see something which is really funny, and they're feeling great, the first thing they want to do is tell someone about it. Maybe they want to kind of revel in it a little bit, but then they want to go to the people that they're closest with and kind of share in their great, in that experience, and share that with others, which is, I guess, fundamental of someone who then wants to really help people grow rather than just kind of connect selfishly. They actually want to help someone else grow. And that's when you're a mentor, because then you're mentoring others. You're trying to help them and support them in doing the same thing. And then you shared this part about how the mentor relationship, it kind of like the mentor-mentee. Now, I don't actually see it as mentor-mentee. Like I do have people who I consider as mentors, but I don't think that there's anyone that I'm purely learning from, like just learning from. With almost everyone who's in my life, I'm sharing the journey with them. And I've found this with those people who I consider my mentors, as well as other people I just really respect and look up to. They're doing the same kind of thing. They're not, and I think this is what you were sharing as well, right? It's not just what advice or what learnings can you get from this particular person. It's how can you hear what they have to say and then actually implement in your life and take it seriously and apply it, and then continue to pursue it in that regard. And when you continue to pursue it, and then you're going to share your successes with them, and then you're going to challenge them with something which is an even greater challenge. And eventually they start seeing that you've got strengths, or they start soundboarding things with you. And then it's not just a mentor-mentee relationship. It becomes a friendship ultimately.
Yeah.
Like a beautiful friendship. It's the type of person that you really want to surround yourself with.
100%.
And I guess further to what you're saying as well, there are plenty of studies out there that are showing that your salary, for example, is going to be in some sort of formula of the 5 people that you spend most time with.
Oh, yeah.
Usually the average, right?
Yeah.
And that applies to a whole bunch of different areas in our lives. It's not just finances. It's also the types of relationships and how happy people are and how connected they want to be. And that's why we learn so much from our parents, whether we want to or not, or whether they were good lessons to get or not. That's why we learn so much from them. That's why you learn so much from your. That's why I guess you learned how to not study from all your friends in school. Or not friends in school, because like, whoa, well, they don't study and they're really cool and they're the cool guys. And so I guess I should just kind of be like that. As soon as I don't have to study, I'm not going to study either. Right?
That's right. Yeah.
I think you said your greatest regret was that you bought a $280,000 Tesla.
Yeah.
Instead of buying $280,000 worth of Tesla shares.
I literally lost $10 million. Yeah.
Yeah, right now it's 10 million. I think when we had that chat, it was 4 million, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what are some of the other regrets that you've had in your life, which you wish that you could have gone back and changed?
I think mainly it's probably time spent with my family would be the first thing that come up in your mind. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I still don't know if there is any other way. Like at some stage of my life and maybe people's life, where you spend your time on will actually define where your success is. So if majority of the time that you do spend on business and your career, you won't be able to do too bad in that, right? But evidently you sacrifice the other part of your life. So when you say regrets, my regret is probably more time with kids that would have helped. Luckily enough, I still have time. My kids are still relatively young, and it's really not too late. So that's why I'm trying to put the words work hard in a directed way to become financially free in the next number of years. So I can actually spend a lot of time with them. So my goal is to reduce my working hour from say 40 week hour to 20, then to 10, but then to 5, and to really embrace that family kind of lifestyle in the future. So that was probably the only regret I have. Yeah. The other regrets probably I should have got into Bitcoin a bit earlier. So that's probably everybody's regret, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, some people should be really happy that they didn't get into Bitcoin in October, but so that's not the case all the time. Yeah.
But
what was it? Yeah.
But I think, to be honest, if say that I got into Bitcoin a bit earlier, say in 2000. I don't know, 15, 17, whatever, I don't think I would have the knowledge to hold that, Bitcoin for that long anyway. I would have sold it anyway, if I'm being honest with myself. But, so what I'm trying to say is there are endless opportunities, I feel, there are endless opportunities in our lives. But if you can't see it and can't understand it, the opportunity will be just wasted. For example, if I bought Bitcoin back then, I would have sold it. Same after Tesla. If I bought Tesla when it was only $150 US before the split, I would have sold at $200 anyway, because I didn't understand the potential. I didn't really get into it. I didn't know what value investment actually means until probably in the recent years. Right. So, so if you calculate that, say $300,000 back then was $250 and now it's $800 and times 5 because it was after the split, it's literally, almost near $10 million right now if I hold it. That was a big loss. Yeah, big loss.
Well, it's interesting you define it as a loss, right? Because you never actually had it in the first place, did you?
Yeah, it's opportunity loss, and it's always a loss. Yeah, that's why I say to people, whether you like it or not, you're working hard or not working hard. I mean, if you're working hard, you're losing your time and probably your energy a little bit, and you're probably your black hair to gray hair, whatever. But if you're not working hard now, you over the next 20 or 25 years, there's something you're going to lose anyway. You just you can't see it right now, but you will lose it. Because if you don't pursue in a way, for example, in terms of money and purpose for life, you just grind your day every day, go to work and spend your money. And at the end of, like probably 50 years old, 60 years old, life will kick in. Some, a family matters, your health matters, and everything will start to kick in, and suddenly you lose that income stream. And you may not think that it will impact you a lot when you spend money now, but if you don't build up your wealth in a certain way that can generate income in the future, life will punish you. Life will really, really punish you. Okay? On average, I heard I think super annuation at the age of 65 is probably below $300,000 anyway.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. So if it is $300,000 trying to live another 20 or 30 years of your life, that's just going to be pathetic.
Yeah, I think it was Warren Buffett who said if you never create a passive stream of income, then you'll be working for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Until you die. That's what I think. That's what he said.
Yeah, until you die. Yeah, there you go. So we've spoken a lot about the types of lessons that you're really trying to share and how you didn't get those from your parents. What advice are you trying to instill in your children today?
Getting them educated early on vulnerability, communication, being honest is our focus, and also I do educate them a lot on finance side of things, and trying to let them know that financial freedom or financial literacy is not something that you learn later. It's something that you build as a habit of understanding right now. Yeah, it's something that they need to understand the fundamentals right now and start to practice little and little. And by the time that you're 18, I think it's still possible. By the time they're 18 or 22, they can already become a millionaire by the current technologies that we have. There are people overseas who's mining Bitcoins, they earn like 30 grand a month or something, right? There are other people who just draw random NFTs online and they make millions. And who knows what our kids can do nowadays. But if the idea has never been there, if we educate our kids saying that, okay, go and study this, go and study math, physics, chemistry or biology, whatever. And when you go to uni, do the LED thing, which is lawyer, engineer, and accountant, you'll be all right, right? So if that's the education, and evidently, your kids' behavior will be more or less in that kind of direction. So I'll definitely say give them. My education for my kids is give them freedom of who they want to become. I never really want to box them, but I told them whatever you want to be, you can, but with these things in mind, which is the health, relationship, wealth, and impact. Then you go and do whatever you want to do, and then you just learn your ways to achieve those four things. And that was that always has been the focus of me educating, for example, my son. My daughter is probably too young to understand that, but more or less I will be educating in the same way in that regards. Because when I was brought up, it was never really purposeful in the way that I was brought up and educated. So my only goal was to perform well in exam and getting a steady job, and that was really difficult to break, actually. But lucky enough, I'm out of that mindset, which I'm very grateful for.
Yeah, most people with similar upbringings have never actually broken it, right?
Yeah,
or still haven't broken it.
Yeah, that's why I try to bring it all changes from here to people. Throughout that journey, I found some people really, really stubborn on that. The idea of doing the LED thing, and they never really engaged in the entrepreneur side of things. That was really, I would say, really sad when I see that. And sometimes I blame that on myself, saying that maybe I'm just not good enough to influence them. Who knows? But it's not everyone. So I don't know. Should I keep doing that?
I don't know. That's up to you. I've obviously had to face that challenge multiple times, right? I've had clients
Yeah.
who've come to me for coaching, and I've really been able to support them with what they wanted, but then haven't been at the level to really inspire them to want to change in other areas which they weren't quite ready for.
Yeah.
And part of me was thinking, well, that's just kind of crap. Maybe I'm in the wrong job, the wrong role. And I started realizing that, well, actually what I've done is I've planted a seed. I've had some of those people come back to me like a year later or 6 months later saying, hey, all that other stuff which I wasn't ready to work on yet, I think I'm ready to work on that.
Oh, wow.
Can we look at it?
That's a big win. Yeah.
Yeah, massive win. And it's only one of them said, I keep seeing all of your posts on LinkedIn, and I keep seeing all these events that you guys are running, and the topics keep inspiring me, and you keep doing it, and you've been there for so long. Maybe it's something I should really pay attention to as well. Great. Let's finally have that chat again about this particular area. And so I think that there are some people who are ready straight away. But when you mention that quote, that when the student's ready, the master appears.
Yeah.
I think it's just when the student's ready, they're just going to take action one way or another. And it's not so much about the skill of the master, but more the student's perception of that master.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
I think that's more of how people make change in their life. It's not that it's the coach that that gets them to change it. Well, no. It's. I mean, everything's our responsibility, right? Everything that we interact with is our responsibility.
Uh-huh.
There was this really cool talk which I listened to. I think it was by Tom Bilyeu ages ago.
Oh yeah,
where he shared something like he was talking about extreme responsibility, kind of similar topic to Jocko Wilkins.
Yeah.
But he was saying, I take responsibility, like everything that happens in my life is my responsibility. If my wife goes outside and gets hit by a meteor and dies from it, that's my responsibility. I could have funded organizations that detect meteors, and then like there could have been a warning system. And then my wife could have got a warning and then been told to come back inside.
Yeah.
And so he's talking about extreme responsibility, right? So we are responsible for everything that happens. Ultimately, everything that we perceive, we have some level of influence over. But my guess is that most people just aren't ready for that, perception of their responsibility. They're like, no, that's that person's fault for walking in front of traffic. So there's nothing I could have done about that.
Yeah. In business sense, I think, it's typical what I call the employee mindset. You know, they just think about what they're entitled, and they do what's within their influence. Then they think, there's no need to spend more energy on trying to influence something they may not be able to influence on. And that was because maybe part of that was because of fear as well. Like, even if they, think they can influence it, what if they do and they fail? There's no rewarding that. And that's what people not naturally connected in, bringing more responsibility on themselves. I think what he said was absolutely right. But depends on how you take it. You don't want to take too much responsibility. At the end, it overwhelms yourself, and you becomes, mentally unstable, and that's not what you want to do. But I do understand that you're trying to make the most out of what you can impact on, and what you do actually really matters, because people are watching, people are seeing you, and especially when we are on social media and you have a group of people that you always be in touch with. Everything you do will make big influence, and that's the impact part I was talking about. Like for my journey, I wasn't who I am right now, but for a long period of time, I was doing the behaviors of who I want to be until I become who I am today. And that period was a difficult period, not in the sense of the behavior itself, but in the mind, because I think I was faking myself. But I'm glad I did that, because it's the reps that you put into the exercise every day really shape who you're going to be in the future.
I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, how can we possibly grow if we don't believe in our ability to grow? Like, if we don't believe that firstly, if we don't recognize that we're not where we want to be, and secondly, we've really clearly identified where we want to be as well, right? In order to recognize that. I mean, if you truly recognize that you're not where you want to be, then that comes with a whole bunch of humility. It means you're not yet ready. Like, you don't know everything that you need to know.
Yeah.
You haven't practiced what you need to practice. It's like, I want to be winning tennis competitions, but I don't want to get a stupid tennis coach. Why would I do that? But hey, Roger Federer has a tennis coach. So does Nadal and Djokovic and everyone else you could possibly think of.
Exactly.
Why do you think that you shouldn't? And it seems like that's how you really operate your life as well, right?
Yeah. Actually, you know what? The funny thing you mentioned about coach, when I first met my coach, I told him, I'm not here just to play casual, just train me as if you train me to, senior competitions. And that's how he did it. And like, we never really, so far in the last 9 months time, we didn't actually play any games. All we did was just drills, not just boring, repetitive drills. And I've never complained about it. And he was really patient in fixing all those little things, fixing the foundations, and give me the education, saying that the foundation needs to be solid before you can play games, and just be patient, which is great. And it's been 9 months. I'm not really complaining, because I'm seeing myself really improve from a foundation point of view, rather than trying to just win a game. But evidently, when I play with friends right now, I win anyway, because the foundation is solid. So, but I found a lot of people that I touch and I deal with, unfortunately, a lot of people got a very short-sighted view. Like, when they go to coach and they want immediate result, try to win a conversation, trying to win a match immediately by doing some shortcuts here and there. And I feel that that's really destroying one's what's it called, perception on how good they are. And that perception can actually have a very damaging effect on your future growth journey. Because if you think you're really good right now, your brain will tell you not to learn. That's just a fact. For example, if you're going to a seminar, webinar, trying to learn something, and before you go into that seminar, you already told yourself, I've heard this, 3 times, 5 times before, I'm just there to just turn up to see what new that this guy's saying. You're not going to learn much, because you put your mind saying that, okay, this guy either saying something I've already know, or saying something that I don't believe in anyway. So what are you going to learn from that? Nothing. But if you go to a webinar with a humble heart, saying that, whatever that guy says, I'm just a listener, then you may pick up.
There are 2 awesome analogies to draw from this with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which I've been training for a couple of years now.
Okay, tell me about it.
The first one is, there are a lot of people who in the beginning get really frustrated by the fact that they have to drill everything all the time. Like, our coach always has, like, the first probably 45 minutes of the class is warm up and drilling a new technique. Yeah. And you're just doing the technique over and over and over again, right? And a lot of people can get frustrated by that, but those are the people who don't stay at the gym for very long. Like, they'll just come off for a one-off class and then they don't come back, because they don't like that. They just want to get straight to the competition, right? To the rolling, to the challenging each other, to just, let's see what I can do. And I feel like I've learned so much more from the drilling, and then practicing what I've been drilling whenever I'm rolling, right? And following on from that, though, you don't get a new belt, at least not from our coach. I know there are some coaches who do, but you don't get a new belt until you've competed. Like, until you've then not just drilled everything, because you can't be in these classes unless you're drilling everything, but then also competing against other people who you've never gone against before, and you're going hard. You're going 100%, right? You don't want to rip off their arms, but you don't want to let them off easy. Yeah. And then I was really humbled by this guy who's just recently joined our gym. He's a black belt. He's been training for, like 11, 12 years or something.
Wow.
And he is incredible. I don't think that there's anything that he could learn from me at all. In fact, I would put my money on that. I don't think there's anything in BJJ that he'd be able to learn from me.
Right.
But yet he is really genuinely grateful and thankful for the ability to roll with myself. And I'm like, why? I don't get it. Why? And it sounds like there's just really back to your point, and what inspired this is he has this humility where he's just able to say, I don't know everything. And being around new people, it doesn't matter how experienced they are or not. There's always something new which I'm able to learn, or a new angle, or a new technique, or a new practice, or it's something which might work great against the black belt because black belt's going to do one particular thing in response to whatever they're going to do. It doesn't work against the blue belt because, hey, the blue belt's just going to do something completely unpredictable because they don't have as much experience. They don't know what else is next. And that humility, which it sounds like you've really kind of embraced for yourself, right? You can always learn something new from anyone that you connect with, anyone you interact with.
Yeah, I tried to train myself to do that. I was definitely not like that before. Just by the way, it was something that's trained.
Yeah, you've trained a growth mindset.
Yeah.
I love that. One of my final questions for you is, I'm curious about the differences you see, because you grew up in Chinese community, and then you also had some formative years in Australian English speaking community.
Yeah.
And they're obviously very different cultures. And now you've mentored people who are in Australia. You've been a leadership role for people who are Australian, leadership role for people who are Chinese background. You're a mentor for people who are Chinese background. What are some of the key differences that you see between the cultures?
One of the most stands out one is the one that I had experienced myself, which is, just the upbringings, understanding, from the Asian background, how were they educated, which plays an advantage in terms of understanding who they are. In the Australian kind of community, to be honest, I just can't really fully feel how they were brought up. People telling me their stories, I can hear their stories, but I haven't experienced it. So when I don't experience it, I kind of can only give or share the stories I think may be relevant to them, but not necessarily. And that sometimes can play a role of making a key connection or not. But in the Chinese community, it's not like that. It feels like everything that I shared is much more easily understood, not just because of the language, but just because understanding the background culture, who they are, and whatnot. But there's also a lot of commonalities between the two cultures. As a human, they all have desire. They all don't want to change, but they all somehow they want to change, but they don't want to change. You know what I mean, right? And yes. And also they all kind of need some kind of help. But they don't know how to ask for help. That's the common thing that I've seen. The other thing that's different between the two cultures is that Asians they're still quite big in making income. Like making income is a good income is one of the top priorities in their life still. But in the Western culture, not so much so. It's people actually very happy in making good money at work but spending it all. But in the Chinese community, it's almost about it's mostly about making money great, doing business great, but how do we grow that money? Like people can become very money centric in that regard. So in the Chinese community, it's about trying to tune that a little bit, and not saying that don't make money, but think about other things in your life to blend into that money making exercise. That will generally make people feel and realize something they never realized before. Whereas in the Western culture, funny enough, like they didn't think making money was actually very important until they find out that other people are making heaps of more spending the same time. That's when they get jealous, and that's when they want to pursue. Either way, it's fine. It's but mechanically, in terms of human desire, that's still the same. People just if they haven't seen someone done something successfully who's very close to them, the desire usually doesn't get built. We can see people like Warren Buffett or Elon Musk or Bill Gates, whoever. They are very successful. We can see that, but we kind of can't touch them. You know what I mean? They're too distant for them to make a good influence to me. But if it's your friend or your neighbor who's, went to a very similar high school like yours, or even the same high school, uni, same job, same type of job, and suddenly, over the last 3 or 4 years, you see them just growing so quickly, whether it's in relationship, having kids, good education, of, putting your kids to good schools and suddenly a good car, or starting a business. Suddenly you realize, hey, if that guy can do it, I talk to him every day and I can do it. That's when the dream really starts, because you see people next to you really achieving it. Yeah. So that's what I found that was the most effective way to influence the people at the very beginning. That's from 0 to 1. Then from 1 to 2, it's another story.
That's a whole nother rabbit hole to go down. And I'm curious that given these differences that you see between the cultures, and China becoming a superpower and Southeast Asia becoming more of the central part of the world, at least over the next 10, 20 years, either way. What would you then think are the things that really need to change within Australian culture in order to adapt to the changing international landscape?
That's a very good question. I never really thought about that. It is actually way too big. I think nothing really needs to change in the culture, because we just need to be ourselves, to be honest. That people come to Australia because the way that Australia is, right? So if individuals, they want to be influenced by a different culture, by all means, go and pursue a different, place in this world. I mean, if you're more, kind of in the startup business, and very techy, go to Silicon Valley. No one's going to stop you from doing that, really. No one really is. But I won't say that we need to change the Australian culture, but in fact, we attract like-minded people to come to us. And obviously, in the whole Australian culture, there are people who's more into, one of the 4 categories of success we're talking about. There's a lot of people wants, to be healthy. They ride bicycles every day, 30 kilometers, 50 kilometers, I don't know, right? There are people like that, which is great, pursue that. And there are people who are making money in property and whatnot, they pursue that. And there are people who wants to, become a public speaker or become influencer. Great. You get your impact down pack, you get your relationship going in that regard. They're all 4 sides of things. We all have that in Australia, which I'm very grateful for. So, I don't think we need to really change much. So just being ourselves, that's more important.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, maybe what I'll do is I'll give a little bit of a recap from what I've heard you share ultimately.
Sure.
Or some of the key points. And then that way you can correct me on anything which I got slightly wrong. You can expand on something which I might have missed, or fill in some of the blanks if there are any which need to be filled in.
Sure.
And then after that, I'll be really curious to hear kind of what your advice would be to your younger self as well. I think that can always be a really cool place to end. Yeah. So we explored a lot of your journey, and we tried to kind of define your version of success. And you said that it's really when you have your wealth, relationships, health, and the impact at a really high level, right? Your wealth is, you don't measure in terms of how much money you have, but it's in terms of how much time you have left in the day, right? And the relationships is how well you're able to connect with others and connecting the dots between the different people. And then on top of that, you have your health, which is really about how much energy you have when you wake up to support your relationships, especially. And so you primarily look at your health in terms of mental rather than just physical. And you talk about your impact, which comes naturally when you have a high level of wealth, so a lot of time to impact people, and you have a lot of energy from your health to impact people, and you have a lot of relationships with people that you impact, right? And so then, like, we explored a lot of your journey. You grew up in Shanghai, completely different culture to when you eventually came to Australia when you were a teenager, young teenager, like in high school. You specifically went to high school where there were no Chinese speakers. Like, you really wanted to kind of throw yourself in the deep end, and you were being forced to study all the time. And then you pushed away from that in university, and then you're working your ass off doing 6 or 7 subjects because you failed a few in earlier years.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that when you have this really strong dream, pursue it and you'll get there. Whatever that dream is, you can really focus on it. Mm-hmm. And so you eventually got to, like, you had a lot of naysayers around you, right? You encountered Australian tall poppy syndrome, which is as soon as the poppy gets too high, cut it down.
Yeah. And
you kind of realized that particular environment, for example, people saying, oh, you'll never get that Lamborghini, you decided it just wasn't right for you. And even though you had a 2-year-old son and a wife depending on you, and you had a 6-figure salary, you decided to move to a small company and head up a division with 1 employee. And then over a period of time, you built that up to, 5, 10, 20, 60, 70 people. And then eventually just the whole thing crashed, right? And the main reason you gave for that is that you were learning reactively, not purposefully. And so you were reducing staff. So now you're really focused on reducing the number of staff you have while also maintaining the same profits. And you eventually wanted to get it to what sounds like a third or a quarter of the number of people that you had before with the same profitability. And that way you just have more wealth in terms of the amount of time that you have, right? And the ways that you mentioned that you're doing that is through your systems and accounting and people retention and really focusing on the profitability. You've learned to not spend so much time at work on the weekends, no matter how busy you are, which is obviously something you've changed. And you don't let the small talk stop you from being who you are, right? What other people say, whatever, it doesn't matter too much. You know that you just love helping people grow. And then you mentioned that the main thing which was driving you throughout that was just this fear of failure. You can't fail. You've got your family counting on you. You've already taken risks. You've told yourself you're going to succeed in it. You needed to make it happen. And so you learned that the gray area is okay. It doesn't always have to be black and white. So you need to learn how to sell and to communicate properly, and you need to show with vulnerability. And so you started It All Changes From Here, and you were mentoring and you were gaining friends, and you had all these English-based webinars, and then you realized that it was more worthwhile putting in your energy towards Chinese, like people of Chinese background. And you basically needed the relationship building skills. And when we spoke about some of your regrets, which you had, you really said that the main one, other than Tesla shares or Bitcoin or whatever, was just the lack of time you spent with family. And fortunately, your kids are still young. You can still help them be who they need to be. But ultimately, you mentioned that where you spend your time determines where you gain your success, right? You look up to whole different areas for advice, mentorship, inspiration, but especially just this reading, right? You said that no matter how busy you are, you're still going to read 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours of a book. Try and listen to some podcasts, connect with new people, basically with anyone who has the results or behaviors that you want, whether that's a business coach or a tennis coach or just a friend, whoever it is. You said your family is your inspiration and your wife influences you a whole lot as well. And as part of that, family being the inspiration, and then what kind of advice you're trying to instill in your children, well, you're trying to get them educated, I think you said on, I think it was honesty and with their finances and making sure that they can be vulnerable and communicate properly, all the things which you've had to learn, which you never actually learned from school. And you said, why not? When they're 18 or 22, why can't they be millionaires? Why can't they have freedom to be themselves? Why can't they be great communicators in and of themselves? And so that's the crux of everything which I've heard you share. Before you share the advice that you give to your younger self, is there anything which you'd add to that or amend or adjust?
I think they're quite precise. I'm quite amazed that, got all of those quite accurately. And I'm very appreciative that, you summarize well and you being a very good listener. So, it's all good. And, throughout your, summary, I had some thoughts, but I think, I can't remember anymore because I think they're more or less right. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, I've really enjoyed the insights that you've shared today. Will, what advice would you give to your younger self if you had the opportunity to now?
Yeah, no, I've been thinking about it. Obviously, there's a lot. I think one of the most important thing is probably there's a couple of things. I was too strong in the belief that who I was the only way that I could be. That was really stopping me until I found out otherwise. So I would say to my younger version, okay, take all your time when you were young, just explore more and really have an open mind. But again, I think that's just easy to say. When you're stuck at some point, it's just hard. It's just really hard. Yeah, it's really hard. It almost depends on luck, where at the right time you met the right people when you had the right need. Because people don't think change when change is not necessary. When you're stuck at some point and you want to become something, you become someone that you really want to become, but you're not. That's when people seek for methods to change themselves. So have a bigger dream is probably another one that I will tell myself. I mean, never stop to dream big. It's okay to dream, even if it's not that realistic. But it's okay to dream because it starts from somewhere. I got people telling me that a lot of people tell me don't plan your life. Because life changes anyway. Plan changes anyway. So what's the point of planning? But to me, it's nonsense. It's not right. You have to plan somewhere, then you can adjust a little bit. And in the middle, you can say that, hey, that's not where I want to go exactly. But, 10 degrees off that course, it is. But without shooting that direction, you can't see that 10 degree of difference. So, those two things that will be telling myself.
Yeah, I love that. Awesome. On that note, I feel like we should wrap up. This has been a great conversation. Thank you for sharing all your insights, Will. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening and having me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Success with Purpose, and I also hope that you feel capable to apply some of the perspectives and learnings from this episode in your own life. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to like and subscribe below. And until next time, live with purpose.